Hi, this is Dana, and today I wanted to share my experience with Cipro. Now, for those who are unaware, Cipro is an antibiotic, and it's prescribed often, and usually it's prescribed for a urinary tract infection, a kidney infection, or some form of bacterial infection. Another name for Cipro, let me get it straight here, is ciprofloxacin. It is in the category of antibiotics that is called fluoroquinolone, and this drug is deadly. And I wanted to share my story today so I could build awareness, you could get a little insight, and you could decide for yourself if you would like to risk it or pass on it. And so it began in 2010 when I had already been dealing with fibromyalgia, already dealing with herniated discs, and already prescribed not only Cymbalta, but also a deadly prescription called Ativan, which is a benzodiazepine, which is a whole other story. Check out my other videos. But let's get to the point. I had a urinary tract infection, and I went to the doctors, and he prescribed Cipro. And you know, sometimes we think the doctor knows best, and now I look back and I see that the doctor doesn't always know best, that sometimes we have to really step out of our comfort zone and question them, and maybe just do our own research to determine if a particular prescription is safe, or is there more negatives, is there more positives. We have to decide if the negatives outweigh anything good about it. And so for me, after taking Cipro for a very short amount of time for this UTI, I noticed immediately, I'm talking upon taking it, that I was getting really dizzy and the room was spinning around. So another name for dizziness is vertigo, and it's like you feel like you're on a merry-go-round and it's spinning and it's quite uncomfortable. And then I started noticing also that I felt like my depression was becoming a bit heightened, so it was increased. I started experiencing anxiety, and I overall did not feel well. And so I knew immediately upon these symptoms that something wasn't quite right. And so nevertheless, I decided to discontinue Cipro and to consider another antibiotic. But what I thought at the time was, because I discontinued Cipro, that meant I was okay. What I did not realize up until more recently is that Cipro does damage, and it's not just temporary or just during the time of taking it, but it also can do damage for the long term, disabling damage. And I never connected the dots. You know, it wasn't until recently when I was on Facebook and people are sharing their own Cipro nightmare that it really helped me connect the dots, and I was like, holy cow. So what happened was, I had been taking Cipro, and then it was short term and I had the negative side effects. But what I didn't realize was that when I started experiencing suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation, and my life was spiraling out of control, and I landed in the ER. So I was seeking medical attention because I knew something was wrong, but I didn't realize that it was related to Cipro. I did not know that Cipro had a black box warning. And so yes, it ends up that in 2008, Cipro had determined by the FDA that there is a black box warning, and I say don't take it lightly, take it serious. And as far as my own self, I was not even aware of the black box warning. And so I went into the ER, I told them I was suicidal. You would have thought that they would have A, considered maybe admitting me, B, finding some other treatment fast, D, having some kind of backup plan for me, like how about counseling, how about therapy, how about, let's try to resolve the UTI in addition to the other horrible symptoms. But no, they sent my rear end home. They sent me home. They didn't do nothing for me. So even though I was suicidal and I verbally made it very clear that, yes, I really thought I was going to harm myself, that they still sent me home. I sit back today and I'm like, blown away that I'm alive. I'm actually shocked that I lived through some horrific events. And when I started looking into the combination of when you start mixing prescriptions. So my doctor had me on Cipro, Ativan, which is a benzodiazepine, Cymbalta, Prozac. Holy cow, talk about heavy duty serotonin. And then talk about serious damage to the central nervous system and the neurotransmitters. You know, it's no wonder that I'm alive today. But I look back in gratitude, and I wanted to share this because you need to be aware of the potential hazards of taking Cipro. And let's not just leave it at Cipro, because there's other drugs under this category. So once again, it's called fluoroquinolone, and here's a few drugs that are antibiotics in the dangerous category. We have not just ciprofloxacin, but we have levaquin, floxin, it looks like Avelox, and there's even more. So do yourself a favor, do some research, check it out, especially if you have doubts about whether to fill your prescription or not. Don't go by what I say, go by your gut intuition, do your own self a favor and research it, really start looking for answers. Don't just go by what your doctor says, but really kind of tune in to the potential risks and check out the black box warning. So if you're wondering, hey, what are the nasty symptoms that could potentially happen? Here's some, not all, some, just a little glimpse of what could possibly happen if you choose to take Cipro or any form of this antibiotic. You may have insomnia, cognitive impairment, dizziness, like I had mentioned, more anxiety. So if you're already dealing with anxiety like I was, it's going to just skyrocket. You may have panic attacks on top of it. You may have paranoia. And how lovely that the fluoroquinolones also cause hallucinations. So if you start hearing voices, yeah, you might need to stop taking this drug. Next, you may have restlessness, tremors, nightmares, like really scary, creepy, way out, bizarre nightmares. You may have weakness. So like me, I had fibromyalgia, which is definitely impacting the muscles and the nerves and the central nervous system of the body. You know, you heard all over already, but then to come to find out, oh yes, Cipro also causes muscle spasms. Yes, and it could even cause tendonitis and really screw up your body. Okay, onward. What else does it cause? That's right, confusion, depression. So if you're not depressed, you just might be depressed by the time you're done with Cipro. Next, blurred vision. You might have headaches, migraines, you just can't think straight, you just don't feel right, and wow, you still might end up with that infection. It may never be resolved, and even if it is resolved, I don't know. I think the infection sounds a whole lot nicer and kinder than the hell that the Cipro caused. So it's something that you have to consider for yourself. What I noticed when I start watching other YouTube videos and just doing my own research, listening and hearing and widening my horizons by gaining insight into these pharmaceutical drugs, such as Cipro, that have these black box warnings. The one is that it could damage the DNA of our mitochondria in our cells. We don't need any more damage than what we're already dealing with. We need to consider gentler options. There's always another option. You don't have to take Cipro. Let me just repeat it. You could say no to your doctor. You have the patient right to decline any medical treatment that is offered to you. You could take it with a grain of salt and choose to follow your doctor's orders, even if it means that you may end up regretting it, or you could really arm yourself with knowledge, go out there and become your own wellness advocate, do yourself a favor and gain insight. Boy, oh boy, do I wish now that back in 2008 I was aware of this, because what happens is when you're prescribed more than one medication, so for example, I was taking the benzodiazepine, I was taking the Cipro, I was taking the Cymbalta for the fibromyalgia. But what I didn't know is when you start combining these powerful drugs, it becomes a potent cocktail of chemicals. it truly does wreak havoc in your body and your mind. It really can be disabling. And, you know, it took me years and years and years to restore my health. And the only way that I restored my health was by declining future medication. So I literally put on the brakes. Yes, you heard me right. A lot of people are like, hey, how can you not take drugs when you have herniated discs and fibromyalgia and clinical depression? I'm here to say today, I may still have fibromyalgia, I may have depression, and I will always have back problems. You know, 30 plus years, you bet I'm going to be dealing with back problems the rest of my life. But I have the potential to increase my wellness when I choose gentle options. And so I basically stopped Western medicine permanently in 2011 after my horrific withdrawals from Ativan and Cymbalta. And nevertheless, I just started a new healing path. I took a look at my diet. I decided to reduce the nasty artificial flavors and the junk foods and the fast foods and the fake foods, and I ditched gluten altogether. And I also had to take a look at dairy because dairy just doesn't agree with me. And so I cleaned up my diet. I focus on a plant-based diet, a whole foods, real food kind of nutrition, and I choose gentle options such as essential oils, my miracle yellow pill, and so many herbs that are just downright wonderful because they are doing some serious healing. There's so much healing that needs to take place in our cells and in our gut and in our body, and it's just a day-by-day journey. And I could say today, looking back on this experience, you know, when you go from 2009 and 2010 and this journey that really was from hell and back, literally. I feel like I went from hell and back over my health, and I had to fight hard to get my health back. But looking on it, and I just kind of look in retrospect, it was worth it. It was worth it to ditch the doctors and ditch the drugs and say no to Cipro. And you know what? If there are infections that happen, because in real life things happen, life happens. Sometimes we do get sick. We have to come up with other plans and other natural methods. And there's so many other less risky antibiotics out there. So why choose something such as these medications with a black box warning, such as the Cipro and the fluoroquinolone category? Why choose that when you could choose something that's a lot less damaging and dangerous? And so today, decide for yourself what works for you. I just pray that you could seek wellness naturally, drug-free, and I pray that you can really also consider your diet, because 80% of our health is directly rooted to what we consume and what we put into our mouth and our bodies every day. If you yourself would like encouragement, if you really are interested in wellness and nutrition and faith and hope, connect with me at danaarcuri.com. If you yourself took Cipro or any other antibiotics and had a horrible result, maybe it was deadly, maybe it was dangerous, maybe you thought you were losing your mind, please feel free to share. I'd love to hear more about it. I'll give some links also. Feel free to subscribe and like my video. Thanks and have an awesome day.